Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to another one of my press conferences. First week of the bye. It's always quite difficult preparing for those buys. Hopefully the video last week helped you a little bit, if not for this week, but setting up your side throughout the whole bye period. Of course, the middle week is going to be a bit easier. This first one and the final one are certainly the tougher ones that'll test us. So I'll take a look at my side. It wasn't a fantastic week, but certainly one I'll accept. It was reasonable and probably, again, something I'll just take on board, and it's a par as far as I'm concerned. 1755, obviously got to take into account the 18 players only being taken into consideration, and I only had the 18. Therefore, everyone who scored was given into my final total. So, won 6 out of 10 leagues, but the real number I want to look at is this one, the change in ranking. I've gone up about 4,500 spots into the top 14,000. Puts me into the top, 7% there. And that's really a reflection of how the bye periods, if you play them well, you can quite easily move up in the rankings. I've been saying that to people in the comments, been saying that in a couple of videos, that if you play your cards right, you can certainly work through the buys with absolute ease. And there will be a lot of people who cop some serious pain, and therefore you might be thinking, oh, it wasn't a great score, but all of a sudden you've gone up in the rankings just because pretty much a par score is going to be good enough to get you through. You can certainly make a massive jump if you have a really good score, but that certainly, I was already in the top 20,000, didn't have an amazing week, but still went up a bit. Obviously, Sanderlands would have hurt a lot of people. I think a few would have been hoping he could be one of their players and scorers this week. Not to be, he was a late withdrawal, would have hurt many, but I'll take a look at my side anyway. Might just zoom in for a bit of fun. Take a look at the back line first. And obviously Laird had his worst game for the season, 59. Had a tough time down at the Cattery. He copped a knock early. I'm not sure how much that affected him. He certainly lost about 15 minutes of game time, but even so, he came back and looked alright after a quiet start. But a tough week for him and all Adelaide Crows. Adams, a lot of tackles, plenty of the ball, 105, continues to deliver. Tui played a very good game on bets. He was fantastic, but turned it over a couple of times and got a bit of cheap ball at the end, which beefed up his statistics. So while he had 27 touches, it probably wasn't one of his better games offensively. Defensively, it was very good, but 76 points, probably a true reflection. Heath Shaw, I was happy to see that. Nearly edging the ton, but, I was getting to that stage where you're getting very frustrated with a bloke that you've traded him, presumably as a premium, not producing premium numbers. So hopefully he can kickstart the back end of his season. Tom Stewart, been fantastic. Nearly up to 300k. Really impressed with how he's going. And he's quite simply a cog in the Geelong backline now, which is great. So not only is he scoring some decent points for us, but he'll make some good coin. For a guy who looked like he was just going to average in the 40s and 50s, he's now got that average nearly up to 60 and should go beyond 300k quite easily. Scharenberg, the 46 points, not great, but again, I traded him in, needed to get someone just to score, and Tom Williamson had peaked anyway. So obviously on the bench there, O'Connor didn't play, and Newman, of course, had the bye. Dangerfield, again, did me a massive service, 149 points, had the VC on him, went bang, did not hesitate to double that one up, so was really pleased with that. Tom Mitchell, probably thought he would have scored a little bit more than that, but nonetheless 105 is okay. Pendlebury, very good. He and Treloar led Collingwood to a very impressive victory. Treloar delivers once more, 128. His last month or so has been really good, so pleased with that. Fife, I'd like to say responded. He was better, 104 points. It's still not back to his best, but I think we'd like to see him more up around that 106 to 107 sort of average at least. So he's got a bit of work to do, but we'll take the 104 this week. Scotty Selwood, 101 average. Of course, he came into my side. Sorry, 105 average, 101 for the week. Been fantastic. I really did not think he could score these sort of points. I knew he'd tackle hard. I knew he'd get inside pill. Probably thought he'd average around the 80 to 90. Best case scenario, mid-90s. But to come out, first 3 weeks, averaging the 100 mark there is really good. Massive for the buys and massive for our pocket as well. Myers is not setting the world on fire at all. He's gone up about 80 odd K. disappointing with the 46, but again, you can't complain too much because we got him very cheap. Hopefully he just stays in the side. He's getting okay numbers. Again, I didn't see the game. You'd like to think he can hold his spot. We'd wait and see. Hugh Greenwood, very good. So as you can see, Scharenberg, Selwood, Greenwood were my 3 trades. So all traded down to them, and I think they should make me a bit of coin. As you can see at the top here, I've got 436k in the bank. I'll certainly look to be doing plenty of upgrades over the next few weeks. Greenwood was very good. Plenty of tackles and lined up. I saw this game, obviously. It was down at the Cats game and lined up around the stoppage quite often. So that was good. Hanbury, of course, having the bye, as did Barrett. Martin also had the bye. Grundy was serviceable with 98. McRae, Dalhouse had the bye. My forward line was certainly hit hardest. Of course, Eddie, I was really hoping would get selected. I was hoping Bruce would get selected. They were 2 sort of 50-50 players that were, on the brink of maybe selection. Didn't happen. Could only get, 18 players to field. I thought Nankervis played better than 83. Maybe I just watched certain periods that he played really well in, but seemed to take some big grabs, intercept marks, maybe handballed a bit. Maybe it was a bit messy in the contest, but I thought he probably deserved a bit more than 83. Higgins was really poor, really poor. Obviously just the 62 points there. Yeah, it's a tough one. Sometimes he's either sort of around your 60 or 70 or 120. There's not really much of an in-between, but anyway, we'll work with it. The forward line is pretty scarce in terms of premiums. I still feel he is one. Would like a little bit more of a consistent output from him, though. Tom Lynch was good with 92. And what was a tough day for Gold Coast for the most part. They did end up coming back and having a good victory, but he probably just played a bit role, was good without being great. And there's 4, he got the 92. And of course, Hannon, excuse me, and Heaney both had the bye. So my side, pretty pleased with it. We're coming along well. I always aim to finish in the top sort of 10,000. I mean, that's always my hope. Not even hope, it's an expectation. I mean, you should be. And more often than not, I do. But, of course, with a poor start to the season, I've had to work back pretty hard. Have been able to do so, which is good. Just taking a glance towards next week. It was always going to be the easiest one because there are only, 4 teams? 4 teams, is it, with the bye? I'm pretty sure it's Geelong, North, West Coast and Richmond, I think. Yes, there you go. Geelong, North, West Coast, Richmond. So, certainly looking alright there. As you can see, backline, Tui, Stewart will go out. Newman will come in for one of those. So, 1 out in the backline, providing Scharenberg holds his spot. Midfield, it's only Dangerfield and Selwood. Hanbury, Barrett. Hanbury will certainly come in. Barrett, you'd like to think so. So then again, no zeros there. My ruckman are fine. And the forward line, Hannon and Heaney, should both come in for Nankervis and Higgins. And of course, Eddie won't be playing, one would think. He's found it very difficult to crack into the side. So at this stage, it's looking like just the 2 zeros, which will give me 20 players to field, which will give me a bit of leeway, a bit of margin for error. For example, if you don't quite understand, if this team scored how they did just with 20 players next week, I would cancel out 46 from Scharenberg and cancel out the 46 from Myers. So it just gives you a bit of margin for error. If you've got 20 players playing, all of a sudden your 2 worst scorers get taken out of consideration. And what can be really good if you have a good week, then all of a sudden your worst scorers are sort of 60s, 70s. They get taken out. All of a sudden your worst score is about 80. And you can really find that you can get 1,900, 2,000 scores even. And that's just gold on the bye period. So next week, I'll really be looking to go bang and certainly move into the top 10,000 and maybe beyond. So there'll be the same for most people. A lot of people will have an easier week coming up. But I'll certainly look to possibly, I might hold my cards in regards to trades. It all depends on the teams and what happens. But we'll just wait and see. Certainly next week and the coming weeks with the money in my bank can certainly start to get aggressive and really beef this team up with a few premiums. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you had a good week as well. certainly would have tested some more than others. I'll be back next week. I will look to have a shorty say either tomorrow night or around the Tuesday. So hopefully people are getting around that. They're going okay, some more than others, but I'll certainly look to keep doing them and having a play around with what's popular and what sort of topics really get people interested. And of course, I'll be back with the weekend preview later in the week. So again, I hope you had a good week in SuperCoach. Subscribe to the channel as always. I've sort of rejigged the channel a little bit. My mate Tyson gave me a few tips. You can find him at Tizio100, but just a couple of little things that you might see visually different with the channel. You'll probably see a little Shorty logo down the bottom right just to subscribe. So just a couple of little things that, we're trying to make the channel a little bit better and a little bit more professional. So hopefully that's coming through, and hopefully you're enjoying it. So comment how you went, give the video a like, and subscribe as always. Thanks again, guys.